We are back from Staffing Industry Analyst Healthcare Summit 2021. Did I say that right?
Yeah, Boston, Massachusetts.
There we go. And we have got a ton of good information. On this episode, we talk about everything that happened there, all of the good information, and then we kind of speculate about what happens next year. Atlas All Access starts now. Steve Seitner joins us, and partially because I like having him in here, but he was my traveling partner at SIA 2021, and we had a ton of fun. So welcome back to the table.
For sure. Appreciate being here, as always.
Okay, so give me... we each had a different perspective going into this, and then we each had... as much as we were together, we always come out with something different when we go to these things, right? We're always looking for something different just because of our roles here at the company.
Absolutely.
Give me your kind of super high level kind of take on what happened there at SIA this year.
Yeah, I mean, I think the approach we always got to take is kind of more of like a divide and conquer, right? You know, when two or three of us only go out and some of these companies are sending 15, 20 people, there's only so much that we can cover in a glance. So we got to be really, really intentional about what events we participate in, who's handling what engagements. But me coming out of there, I think three things really stood out for me. One, this is a year unlike any. You know, we've been coming off of a year or two of uncertain times, and that doesn't seem to be any sort of clear answer as to what the next year is going to be for our industry. So,
right.
so the future is still a little bit of a crapshoot, right? But what was very obvious is just the role that technology is playing in our industry. You know, this is still very much a people job as far as we're concerned. The relationship with the recruiter is at an all-time high because the uncertainty within the industry right now is at an all-time high, right? So you got to have somebody you can truly trust when the stuff hits the fan, per se.
You can curse.
But
It's
I
okay.
think there was a slide that popped up maybe like 2 years ago, about 15-20%
Yes.
of all the sponsors out there were tech companies, and everybody else was platforms and competitors and, you know, just industry titans.
Right.
And this year was about 60% of every advertising dollar spent out there was on technology. So I think we walk out of there knowing that although this is still a human job, the relationships is still impactful. We'd be foolish not to look at, you know, what these technology advancements could do to help the experience of our travelers.
I think there was a certain amount of truth serum that happened with the pandemic that, as you had referenced, 2 years ago we were in Las Vegas at Red Rocks for SIA, and the year before that was it Denver? I can't even remember where it was. Anyway, it was a very like look out for the recruiterless model, right? And it was very technology based, where the pandemic forced us into that role, and look where we are still.
Yeah, I think you know, there's been a couple things, you know, just the idea of being a tech company first is maybe more prevalent now than ever before. But I think everybody's kind of accepted the fact you can't be you know, relationship absent in any way, shape, or form. Some of the people on the forefront of maybe the tech only approach have even come back around a little bit. So I think just, you know, the shot in the arm of confidence that we didn't go off of our track and take our focus off of the relationship that, you know, the recruiter can have. And even on the other side, the relationship that our client management can have with the vendors and the hospitals, how key of a role that still actually plays in the process of getting a candidate, not just in front of a client, but actually getting them hired.
Right. Yep. We will get into that a little bit. We will
Get ahead of
definitely
myself.
get into that a little bit, because there's a whole rabbit hole that we could go down right there. So let's go. My first question is, what are your takeaways from this year outside of technology? Like, what did you really see that changed your perspective? And I'll start. So I'll give you my biggest takeaway was, as much as compliance has been an issue with us, it's an issue with everyone.
Yeah, and just to be clear, the issue isn't like incapable; it's a capacity constraint, right?
Yes. Yeah. It's a people issue. It's a capacity issue. And every one of the people that I talked to that runs a company said the exact same thing. They are struggling with that, which, gave me a little bit of confidence in what we're doing, made me feel a little bit better, but at the same time realized, like, we got a hurdle here. Like this is a big hurdle to overcome.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, supply chain's hitting everything that we know, right? I mean, it's November as we're shooting this right now, and if you haven't already started ordering your Christmas gifts, you're at risk of not getting them. You might have an empty tree, right?
Right.
But it's silly when you start looking at how it like impacts all of our individual lives. The amount of masks available have been widely publicized, right? But look at the number of people that are there to process drug screens. How fuel costs have impacted, the reduction of shipping change. So samples are getting to the labs slower than they ever have. They have fewer people processing samples, and when there's a people constraint, mistakes happen. So, compliance isn't just, hey, we're incapable or a company B is incapable. It really, really is pinched right now in just the supply, the ability to get people in, the ability to people to process samples, to set up tests, and then just how overpacked and overworked everybody is. I mean, the idea of burnout, it sounds redundant, and maybe it's getting a little overplayed, but it's real. So, I mean, if you're in that bucket where you're thinking this is just not reality, I think you're in the minority at this point because, compliance is a puzzle everybody's trying to solve. But it's not a people issue. It's a supply. It's a technology issue.
Absolutely. Second question relates to compliance.
Yeah.
Two of the things that we heard quite a bit were, and these are themes that have come up over the years: standardization of compliance packets across hospitals and standardization of a national license. And
let's do it
again.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Let's do it.
I would buy into this immediately. And you kind of heard that. Over the years, it was loud and clear right now. Like there is a clear need from us, maybe from an agency standpoint, for those two things.
Yeah, and I think that's where companies like or industries like Staffing Industry Analyst, although this was SIA a month prior, we did ASA, American Staffing Association Staffing World, and just having these big neutral bodies fighting the fight for us, sitting out there pushing this, some titans within the industry pushing for state, or national licensing mandates. It really does feel like, for once, while it was a hoop dream for so long, it feels like it's kind of picking up steam right now.
Yeah.
And you sit there and you think about this advent, and about 2, 3, 4 years ago, we all started hearing this term telehealth.
Yeah.
Well, that's real. Like, that's here. I know me and my house, we pick up a phone sometimes and make the phone call instead of trucking into an urgent care center to get our kids seen.
Yep.
But what's different of a nurse sitting on her chair in her office in California telling me advice in Nebraska than me walking into an office here in Nebraska? Because you know what? A California licensed nurse can't practice in Nebraska.
Right.
A Nebraska licensed nurse can practice in 30 plus odd states.
Right.
But California's not there right now. Sounds like they're coming.
They might be coming.
But
yes.
it's a pending thing. But I think it just adds a little bit more muscle and a little bit more urgency behind the idea of a national licensing mandate and national compliance standards versus this hospital needs this, that hospital needs that,
right?
Or this state needs this and that state needs that. This is America. It should be universal at this point.
I have a feeling in years to come, this will become a louder and louder issue when we go to these types of things.
You kind of saw it like in the conversations and the breakouts. It's kind of like the tone or the tenor of the conversation started at like a 3 or 4, but you could see like the audience was feeding into it and the excitement was building. And so by the end of the conversation, it was almost like a rallying cry per se.
Yeah.
So yeah, I agree with you 100%. This will only pick up steam. And if I get the opportunity to put my name to it, I will be signing.
Oh, without a doubt. I would too. Yeah, without a doubt. Okay. Question number 3. Staffing Industry Analyst usually does a very good job of predicting what next year is going to look like, right? Yeah. And even this year, they were like, they gave some ideas.
Yeah,
right?
God bless them. You're
Yes.
not going to call them out, not going to throw them under the bus by any means. I mean,
There's no way.
They've been a standard for years, right?
Yes.
Them and some big companies that process a lot of profiles. And
right.
A lot of us do lean on them just for a little bit of direction when we try and set like what the benchmarks are for us as a company for the year going forward. They're all over the place. I mean, you have conversations with people who are predicting a 10% drop, 20-25% growth.
Yeah.
That's a 30 to 35% span in the midst of 1 hour's worth of conversation with 2 different people.
Right.
Whereas historically, everybody's been really, really conservative, and they've sat there and said like 3% growth. And then somebody else counters with, no, 4% growth. And somebody's like, that's a little bold. We're going to go 2.5% growth, right?
Right.
No, this year it was all over the place. And with the caveat or the asterisk every time of, we all know this is us just the best we can,
Right.
And that's, is it a growth in hours booked because the need isn't going away? Is the reduction based on a bill rate or a revenue drop because bill rates are going to have to normalize at some point?
Right.
And some are more proactive that that's going to happen maybe in the first quarter or second quarter versus 2025. But, you just sit there and you have conversations, and it's the first question everybody asks, not just to the individuals on stage that were deemed to be the experts in the topic they were speaking on, but in every breakout session, in every happy hour you ended up at. All right, I don't care what they were saying. What do you think's happening?
Yep.
And you heard the same thing, just an instant counter. Right. What do you think's going to happen? You know just as much as I do.
Yes.
Right?
It happened at lunch. This was a lunch that I went to because I spoke at the conference, and everyone from SIA was there. Like Barry was there, and Timothy was there. And each one of them said, "What do you think?" Like, we don't know. Like, we got a guess. Like, we got a pretty good trajectory here, but is it really going to happen? And the answer is I don't know. I don't, right? And yeah, how do you shake the crystal ball, and what does it say?
Yeah, I mean, I was just hoping for this like overtime Hail Mary to come through, and they were just going to hand us, hey, I know everybody was coming in here looking for the answers, and here they are.
Yeah,
that's not what's happening. so we're gonna go screaming into next period or next year with just working our asses, working very hard.
You can curse, it's okay.
Okay, working our asses off to try and provide everything we can to those that put the faith of their future in our hands.
Absolutely. All right, so based on that, final thoughts.
Yeah.
Coming out of this conference, it was a whole lot different than anything we've experienced
but
in
awesome.
the past.
Still awesome.
Still great.
Yeah.
Still really good, like you said, breakout sessions. Still really good smaller panels. Still really good happy hours, dinners.
Well, I think, the thing that happens is we sit there and we've been having these conversations in these walls, right? And we're fortunate to have a really strong peer group. We get out to these things and, there are a group of companies that look at this as like shortening the learning curve. The more good companies there are, the better the industry can be as a whole, right? So there are conversations that go on all the time. But then you go here and you listen to these people whose jobs are to get a grasp on the industry, not just with what's going on within our walls, and to kind of understand that, not having a clear outlook or a good expectation of what the future is going to hold for us lines up with what they're saying. It kind of validates, again, a little bit about where I feel we're at. I think the fortunate thing right now, having, several thousand nurses that have put their faith in us, over the last year, we can at least be confident that this industry is not going away. We've positioned ourselves in a spot to where we're going to have maybe a few more advantages than the average Joe. Tiering is a thing, but there's a lot of new companies that we've never heard of, right? I think that was one of the shocking takeaways. Yeah. There were more people present at this conference that I'd never even heard of, let alone the little companies I had heard of and was shocked to see them there. So it's still exciting to see more companies participating in this, but people wouldn't be jumping into this space if it was going away, right?
Right.
The number of acquisitions that are still going down within this industry would cease if there wasn't confidence in what the future holds. So the idea, if you're committed to being a travel nurse or a traveling healthcare provider of any specialty, allied therapy, radiology, lab, nursing, it's there.
Right.
Right?
Without a doubt. Stronger than it's ever been before.
But I think, the end users, the travelers themselves, they're going to have to kind of forcibly get with the idea of adopting technology, right? Mm-hmm. New is uncomfortable for a lot of people. I tell them, I try and start off all these in-house emails with, hey, I'm about as tech dumb as it the but even I figured this out, right?
Right.
You're going to have to at least invest a little bit of time in rolling with the punches maybe your company throws at you, because the industry is growing at such a rate that technology is going to have to be there to offset some of it. Yep. Because we've all seen just the labor shortage out there has affected everybody. And we don't want to be at a point where we put a capacity on how many people each recruiter can work with or each client manager can work with. So to try and thumb that bridge, we're literally going to sit there and have to supplement technology in places.
Yeah.
Our new timesheet feature, right? Mm-hmm. But I also walked away from this conference looking at 2 or 3 pieces of technology like, how long do we get there? And can we start it on Monday? Let's write the check and cover that, right?
Right.
So I think things like that are going to allow companies like us to maybe do more with a little bit less or what we have. Mm-hmm. And I think we're doing pretty good.
I think. Look, here's the thing, and we've known each other for years, right? We've known each other for the better part of 18 years.
Yeah.
I always feel like we're behind here.
Always.
And and is that necessarily true? No, it's not. But I walk away from these things feeling like we're still kind of behind. In those cases, though, I don't know if we necessarily are.
No, it's like the same idea. There's always a bigger bully, right?
Always.
I mean, yeah, you might be
Right.
tough, but you're not going to be the toughest guy in every room that you ever walk into, right?
Yes.
We're light years ahead of a lot of people.
Right.
There's some people that got us in a few areas, but very few that maybe, if any, that have us in all the areas. So
Yeah.
I think we're holding our own pretty damn good.
Oh, trust me. I absolutely believe that too.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean I don't want tomorrow to come and the next day, right?
to
What
that.
can we
Yeah.
what can we do there? So, okay. That brings me to just my opinion. This just my opinion is a little personal, and it's a little bit based on what I saw while we were there. If as a traveler, you aren't doing absolutely everything you can to protect your personal information, your social security number, your date of birth, your immunization records, everything that you would give to a company when they ask you to start, you are behind already. And there are a number of companies out there that can help you with that. A number of companies, like individual companies, that have their own product in-house. And then there's a number of companies that have a product that a company like us would use. If you don't have that right now, you probably should look into that, because it is only getting more and more dangerous out there online. It has become almost commonplace for you to get one of those letters in the mail saying there's been a data breach somewhere along the way, and who cares where it's at? If it's Target or someplace that you maybe signed up for online, or an app that you downloaded or whatever, no one is immune, and those things are going to happen. And what we have found out recently is if you don't start doing that stuff right now, bad things could probably happen to you. And I think that's just from a company standpoint, that's true, but from a personal standpoint, that's true as well. I know I've taken measures in my personal life to protect my own private information, as private as it possibly can be. And let's be honest, we share a lot of stuff online that we can say we want privacy, but then we share just a ton of information online that kind of tells the story of who you are. But basic information that someone could use against you, and that could be part of your compliance file, you need to look at protecting that information somehow.
Yeah, I mean, in this day and age, obviously, demand is subsequent, and we just talked for a little bit there about compliance holdups, just because of the chain, the supply chain and the process, and all the hands that are in the mix.
Yep.
The more you control your profile, your portfolio, the better chance you have of not getting caught up in the tape.
Yep.
So,
ironically, if you took these steps ahead of time, your odds to start on time may have been higher because you controlled your information rather than company somewhere controlling that information. So the faster you could share that with that company, and then when you are done with them, pull that information back and move on to the next company you go to, there could be some benefits there. The industry has changed, especially from a compliance standpoint. The industry has changed.
God, it's always fun, though.
I know, right?
Never gets boring.
I don't want to do anything else.
Not for long. I want to make beer at some point for a living,
okay.
but
I want to drink your beer at some point. How's
will.
that? There
Deal.
we go.
Deal.
All right. Mr. Seitner, thank you so much. It was so much fun to go with you to Boston and outside of those, we had a great time with the companies that we spent time with. If you know who you know who you are. We spent a ton of time with them, and it was a great time.
Absolutely appreciate all of you. Yeah. Special shout out beyond our travelers to the people that took time to hang out with me in Boston and Atlas in Boston.
Absolutely.
Much appreciated.
All right, next week I am with Mr. Kurt Chase from our Dallas office, and we're going to talk all things Dallas. So young, vibrant, energetic. If you don't know Kurt, you need to tune in, because that dude is awesome, and the team he has down there in Dallas is fantastic. So thank you again.
Hell yeah.
And we'll see you next week.